Number two is you are potentially at a low ceiling in terms of revenue, in terms of influence, and in terms of like fulfillment, because it is just not fun to be a practitioner who is not experiencing prosperity and who's not seeing outcomes. And it's possible that one of the reasons that you're not seeing prosperity and you're not seeing outcomes, or at least not at the scale that you like, is that your clients actually have a poor foundation. So I believe in order of operations. I'm not saying this is the only way it is, but I really passionately believe that when you start with self-care, when you start with lifestyle, when you start with what I call the chopping wood and carrying water of your daily decisions, and you get fiercely disciplined about that, you exercise your integrity of word, your follow through, and you do the damn thing for 1 month of your entire life, there is a safety that is conferred to your system that allows the deeper work to be guided by insight, right? So to be sparked from intrinsic motivation, right? So you might finish that kind of self-initiative ritual and then feel like the next best thing for you to do is family constellation or to learn about essential oils or to go do that ayahuasca retreat, right? That's been buzzing around your awareness. Reconnection to self, I believe, is facilitated in the mundane dimensions of your lifestyle. I think that comes first. I have seen so many instances where when you start with these other healing modalities, you start with these other very powerful ways to reconnect to yourself, to begin to understand the language of your body, to begin to ease some of the stress physiologic burden, but somehow you circle back around to the same pattern. So the pattern disrupt, the record scratch, I think, comes from a lifestyle ritual. And I had an experience. So just this morning, I went to see an osteopath, like a manual osteopath. I decided I want to get into that. And I go to see this guy, and he's clearly very talented, right? Like he can read my body in ways that arguably I couldn't, right? He can put a hand somewhere and feel alignment issues, or maybe even feel ligaments and tendons and viscera. And it's very cool, right? This guy's training, he clearly has invested a lot. And I left the office and I was like, how does this guy ever see any outcomes? Like, how does he ever see any outcomes? And it's not because I don't believe what he's doing is powerful. It's because if I walk in there and I'm drinking 6 cups of coffee a day, half a bottle of wine at night, and I am on 6 medications, and I am in all sorts of dysfunctional relational patterns in my life, the signal to noise ratio is just not in his favor. It's just not. And I don't know what he could do about it. So if you are an acupuncturist, an astrologer, a chiropractor, if you are a therapist, oh my God, if you're a psychotherapist, like I don't understand how it's possible for you to get outcomes. Like I'm actually surprised anybody does. So I want to tell you a little personal story, which is to illustrate how essential it is to get to a baseline of who the hell you are in a non-addictive realm of non-inflammatory inputs into your body, right? So I stopped drinking coffee in 2007. I was like a total muggle then, and I didn't do it for like health reasons or whatever. I did it because in my medical rotations, I had a situation where I was like unable to drink coffee for 3 days. I went through like such horrific withdrawal at that point that I was like, fuck this. This is not okay. I'm never dealing with this again. And I just like never drank it again. Okay. So very recently, like in the past month, I've been in this process. If you listen to my podcast, you might know, like I've been in this process of neutralizing rejection. So there's all sorts of things. And a part of this program, a part of my protocol is boundaries, like fierce, uncompromising boundaries with foods and drinks and stuff like that. I believe there is an essential moment in your life where you set up, you become that custodian. You set up those boundaries to confer the safety to your system, to say to your system, oh, somebody's here who gives a shit. Okay. So you do that, but then later on down the line, for me, it was 15 years later on down the line, you got to soften. You got to soften because otherwise you're going to get stuck in the dogma, in the rigidity, and in a version of trusting yourself that's contingent upon rules. So later you'll soften that, you'll learn. So that's the process I've been in, right? So I've been like, what am I rejecting? Okay. So for myriad reasons, I always wait for 3 signs. I decided I'm going to try drinking coffee again. Since 2007, I haven't had it. And I do drink matcha regularly. So I decide I'm going to drink coffee again. And I like start to get into it again. So now I'm drinking coffee and there's like all these coffees that didn't exist when I used to drink coffee with like mushrooms and like bulletproof coffee and all this stuff, right? So I'm getting into it. I'm buying all these different kinds and different ways to like make it and pour it and whatever. So I get into it and I'm having now matcha and coffee. And I go out with my daughter. This was just last week. And we stop somewhere and I am like, hey, I'm playing around with coffee. Isn't that so weird? And I get an almond milk latte. And I literally walked around shopping with her and I felt altered. Like I was like actually high, but not in a good way. And I started to feel like, oh, yikes. I don't know if this is like good. I don't know what's happening here. So I decided, okay, you know what? This is not a thing. I don't think this is good. And I look back over the past couple of weeks, I'm like, holy shit. I have been super irritable lately. Like I have this like little waterfall, like pond thing in my backyard and like it's on a timer and it comes on and off or whatever. Like probably 70% of the days in the past couple of weeks, I've manually turned off the pond because the waterfall is like fucking annoying me. Okay. It's literally like sensory issues. I started to develop like that level of irritability. Okay. I started going to bed at 11:30. I'm like, oh, I'm watching this show Parenthood. Okay. I'm watching this show. It's good-ish. That's why. No, I go to bed at 9. It is a religion for me. Okay. I've been going to bed at 9 since Nick Gonzalez died. And that's another story. What is that about? Okay. So I'm going to bed at 11:30 and I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Now I have a spacious life I've designed for myself so I can take a nap. It's not a big thing, but I realized I was like really pretty tired. And then I was like, oh my God, it's so funny. I have a couple girlfriends who are like really into coffee. And when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, their voice notes, they're always yawning. They're like yawning through the entire voice note. I just reflected on that. And I realized this isn't for me. And so I stopped drinking it. And like the ensuing 3 to 4 days, I was like actually sick. Okay. Like headache, like body aches, brain fog for me. Brain fog is like the number one aversive conditioning, right? Obviously I do this for a living. Okay. I need the channel open. And I thought, how does anyone get outcomes if their clients are drinking coffee? And I'm not here to say that you shouldn't drink coffee or that it's bad, but that you should know what you're like at baseline without booze, without coffee, without sweet drinks, without all the things that we take out, right, in this dietary protocol. You just got to know. You got to know what you're like at baseline. So I'm thinking of this osteopath and I'm like, if he asked somebody to stop drinking coffee, they're just not going to listen. Am I wrong? They're just not going to do it. They're just not going to listen. And then they're going to feel annoyed that he wants them to stop drinking coffee. Or what is he going to say at the end of the consultation? He's going to be like, and by the way, it's a good idea if you don't drink alcohol or coffee. And they're going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And they're just not going to do it. So I have found the way to get your clients to do it. That's literally what Vital Mind Reset is. It's a way to get clients and patients to do the things they honestly wouldn't otherwise do if it was just like a mention or even a strong encouragement, because I think people need to know that it's going to actually do something. They need the carrot, right? So if you say, hey, I know you probably don't want to change any of these things, but if you do this for a month and you do it with this protocol, this is what it works. This is what might happen. Here are the outcomes, and it's worth seeing. You're going to be taken through it day by day. It's just a month. You can go back to drinking it if you want to on the other end. We have had thousands of people stop drinking coffee, okay, for the month. And I just thought, wow, that would be so difficult to deliver. And here I am, anxious, irritable, tired, with like potential insomnia. And I'm bringing all that to this guy. I wasn't in this case, but let's say I was. And he's not going to talk to me about it's no different than the allopathic model where you go in and you get put on an antidepressant. If you're going to your practitioner and they're not able to address the root, and then you're just dancing around, oh, maybe you should do some special breathing or meditation, or maybe no, how about you just stop drinking the coffee? And then the problem is going to go away. So if you don't have this foundation, your outcomes are going to suffer.